The value of these utility-based projects like XRP are completely fake. I've mentioned this before. I've talked about it actually in a video on XRP where I've stated that the value of XRP today is 100% fake. And the reason why I say that, and the reason why I'm very adamant about that, even when it comes to projects like HBAR, is that we don't have the true value of these projects. We don't know what the real world value behind XRP actually is. We know the utility of it. We know how big XRP will eventually be. But the problem is that today, XRP is still tied back to Bitcoin and what Bitcoin does. For an example, if we look at my screen right now, XRP is trading at about roughly $2.16, but the price action of this is following Bitcoin. This is proving that whatever Bitcoin does, which Bitcoin could easily be manipulated by big players, we know this is true, XRP does as well, which means XRP today, the value is not real. XRP is manipulated. Most of the space is manipulated because everything is tied back to Bitcoin. And right now, Bitcoin dominance is over 64+%. So when it comes to XRP and everyone's saying, all right, well, if XRP is being utilized by banks or, all this good news is happening, why isn't XRP trading significantly higher? Well, don't blame the fundamentals behind XRP and don't blame Ripple. Simply blame the fact that we are not in a utility bull run yet. But what if I told you that we are getting closer to that point every single day? As legislation and regulation catches up to this space, and as institutional grade adoption continues to grow and expand, the more we get closer to utility becoming the value driver. But how high can these projects go? Like, where do we see XRP, in a year or two? Well, it's hard to say, but I've mentioned many times over that XRP will be worth trillions of dollars. And yet, a lot of people have a hard time believing me. What's the proof of it? How do we know XRP will be worth trillions of dollars? Well, it's the fact that Bitcoin has a market cap of $2+ trillion. And you might say, well, that's not enough proof. But isn't it? If you utilize the Bitcoin network, you know how efficient XRP actually is. And you also know how inefficient Bitcoin is. I'm not saying that Bitcoin is useless. I'm just saying that I do think that Bitcoin is actually overvalued. I suspect that XRP will be just as valuable, if not more valuable than Bitcoin in the long-term future. And the reason why is institutional grade adoption combined with utility. But let's actually talk about the main driver and the main thing that will, in my opinion, make a lot of these utility-based projects very valuable. Tokenization. Recently, Mario Nolfo posted the BlackRock clip again, right? This is June 1st, 2025. Larry Fink, tokenization of every financial asset is the future, and we're already there at IBC. We believe the next step going forward with technology is the tokenization of every financial asset. That means every stock, every bond. That means every financial instrument will be on one general ledger. We agree, and we're not waiting. We're incubating more tokenized RWAs than anyone else, spanning infrastructure, credit, yield-bearing instruments, and hard assets. As the dominant media exposure tool booth in this space, we're shaping how capital compliance and custody flow in this multi-trillion-dollar transformation. The rails are being built. We're laying them. Now, listen, when it comes to BlackRock, it's not just going to be one ledger. It is going to be multiple DLTs, multiple networks tied back to one ledger, which is very similar to what the BIS told us, right? That multi-ledger initiative that they want to do, that is happening. And this is where we start to see entire asset classes moving on chain. This is where we start to see Wall Street 2.0, which I've talked about even with Ondo. That's all happening in real time. And listen closely to this video clip. If you missed it back in 2024, listen closely to it again.
We believe the next step going forward will be the tokenization of financial assets. And that means every stock, every bond will have its own, basically, CUSIP. It'll be on one general ledger. Every investor, you and I, will have our own number, our own identification. We could rid ourselves of all issues around illicit activities around bonds and stocks and digital by having a tokenization. But the most importantly thing, we could customize strategies through tokenization that fits every individual. We would have instantaneous settlement. Think about all the costs of settling bonds and stock. But if you had a tokenization, everything would be immediate because it's just a line item. And so we believe this is a technological transformation for financial assets. If you want to talk about voting and voting choice and all the things, if we know every moment who is the owner of that stock and it's now time to vote, every individual who has ownership is identified and they can vote their own shares. We believe the next step.
Now, you got to remember that this is BlackRock, right? We get how big BlackRock is. We already know it. You don't need me to say it 100 times, right? But the fact that this asset management company is telling us this proves that this is already happening. This revolution is already upon us. And we could see that, right? And on top of that, $84 trillion is set to transfer over, which will lead into that amount of money being tokenized as well. This is from baby boomers to Gen X, Y, and Z. This is that big wealth transfer. And the crazy part about this, right, is we are a part of this wealth transfer by investing into the rails. We've talked about the rails, right? We've looked into them. XRP is already starting to see money being tokenized on it in a big way. Having this $84 trillion on chain, it's not just going to stop there. And somebody who put out a great post about this was Quincy. He said the trade volume from real world asset tokenization is the adoption. For every asset that is tokenized, each time it's traded contributes to the demand of the network. This is something that I want you all to understand. As its volume increases, for the tokenized asset, the liquidity demanded from crypto as a form of payment to facilitate these transactions also increases, allowing for value appreciation to cover the liquidity demanded and the ecosystem to grow with more capital to work with. I think that this is one of the most valuable posts that I've read around tokenization, because a lot of them are just like this, where you have BlackRock being highlighted. But what everyone is failing to see is it's not just about bringing $100 trillion on chain, for an example. Think about $100 trillion living on chain, being traded 24/7, 365, and also completely new markets being created through that amount of money as well. It's not $100 trillion. Multiply it now. That's where the real value is. Many people told us this as well, right? For an example, in this video clip where we see Ripple talking about real estate on the XRP ledger, this is Jazzy Cooper. She says the same exact thing that David Schwartz said back in 2023, which I want to play again because it's very important to listen to these two clips. Listen closely to the first one. This is Jazzy Cooper.
So tokenization is really just the digital representation of something in the real world in a digital format. In this case, we're talking about the blockchain. So taking something in the real world, it could be anything. It could be equity, it could be something that you own, it could be a certain privilege like the ability to vote, and taking that entity or aspect that's off-chain and bringing it onto the blockchain and representing it in a digital format. So typically once you have an understanding of what you would like to represent, you'll use an existing standard such as ERC20 on Ethereum or an IOU like fungible token on the XRP ledger, and you'll actually take that real world thing and represent it on the blockchain. Now, why do you want to do that? What's the purpose of just tokenizing something for the sake of it? There isn't one. So effectively, after you've tokenized it, you want to go ahead and do something with it. You want to send it as a payment, or you want to trade it or collateralize it so you can access a loan and use one of the many advantages of tokenizing real things on the blockchain.
And did you catch that right? It's not just going to sit on chain. You want to do a lot more with these things that are tokenized. David Schwartz said the same exact thing back in 2023. Listen closely.
I'm hoping that we're going to see, as real-world asset tokenization projects grow, I think the XRP ledger is going to be a really good platform for them to launch on. particularly because of the low fees and because of the integration with the DEX, with the proximity to sort of the movement of funds. The ability, if someone's going to buy, what do you want to do with a real world tokenized asset? You want to buy it, you want to sell it, you want to hold it, you want to transfer it. And if you want to buy it and sell it, you want to be able to do that with whatever asset is convenient for you. You don't want to tie, if you tokenize some sort of debt, like you don't want to tie it to US dollars, because then that limits access to it to people who have sort of proximity to US dollars. One of the things the XRP ledger is good for is giving you sort of proximity to many different assets, and that exchange is seamlessly built in. So I think that's going to make, that's one of the many reasons why the XRP ledger is going to be a good place to launch tokenized real world assets. I think we'll see that in the next year, year and a half.
So when you tokenize something, you want to do more with it. That's as simple as it is, right? Which leads me to my comment regarding Quincy's. I said this is exactly what so many people are failing to realize about tokenization. The value today of gas tokens like XRP, HBAR, so many other ones are just drops of water in the bucket compared to where they are headed. Everything of value will be tokenized. The Godfather, who is Graham Rodford from Archix, right? He even told us that the total addressable market is roughly $1.7 quadrillion. RWAs won't just live on chain. They will be traded 24/7, 365. They will be locked in liquidity pools for borrowing and lending. They will be utilized to create new markets on chain. The demand that some of these networks will experience will exponentially increase the value of the underlying gas tokens. Stablecoins are already representing the Forex market on chain, which is trillions per day. Asset classes like real estate are already moving on chain. We are watching the beginning stages of one of the largest revolutions happen. These utility-based networks are still tied back to Bitcoin. When utility is the main driver of value is when the real value will be achieved. We will get rich from holding true utility, but it won't be an easy journey or a short one. And I want you guys to understand that, yes, I do believe that every single holder of utility-based projects in the space will become extremely wealthy. And it's not because, I just believe so. It's because of the total addressable market here. Quadrillions of dollars. On top of quadrillions of dollars, let's go back, right? Let's go back to just the wealth transfer. $84 trillion. It's not just going to touch, these networks and live there. No, we are also going to see that $84 trillion multiplied, because it's going to be, traded 24/7, 365. We're going to see it, lent and borrowed against. I mean, I want you all to realize what tokenization actually is. It's the start of everything around finance moving on chain, and what that's going to bring with it is all of the markets around TradFi as well. That's where we start to look at, for an example, stocks. We look at the stock market, we look at the bond market, we look at real estate, we look at every single major asset class, every single major market that has value tied to it. That's all moving on chain. And what's crazy about all of this, right, is that Archix, for example, that told us the total addressable market, they're already partnered up with Ripple to bring millions of dollars to the XRP ledger. They already have millions tied to it. If we go back to the XRP ledger, for an example, here we have Archix, they're number one with $111.7 million tied to it. And they also did provide access to the Aberdeen money market fund on the XRP ledger as well, in collaboration with Ripple. This is billions of dollars, by the way. Billions of dollars are tied back to this money market fund, but they're starting with a pretty small amount. It's in the millions of dollars. I actually think that that's also tracked here under Aberdeen, under Archix as well. We have the Aberdeen liquidity fund. This is 44.9 million. And then we also have the $11.4 million as well. But even the DTCC, right, in their patent, they discovered from Generation Infinity, tokenizing quadrillions in global assets. The networks that were tied back to this included HBAR, XRP, and a few other ones. We already have the biggest players. Like the DTCC is moving over $3 quadrillion per year in securities transactions. This is way bigger than what, the world even realizes. They're telling us bare minimum, right? Like Larry Fink is telling us bare minimum. Tokenization of every financial asset. That sounds big. How big though? What's the numbers? They're not telling us. At the end of the day, these underlying networks, even the entire RWA space, will be, if not 100 times bigger than what they are right now. The total RWA on-chain value is $23 billion. $1.7 quadrillion is the total addressable market. And that's not even taken into account, what some of these big players like the DTCC are moving in value, which is well over $3 quadrillion. Again, this could be way, way bigger than we even think. And some of these projects like XRP, HBAR, right now they're valued in, single digit billions to even $100 billion. That's absolutely nothing compared to what some of these networks will be valued at once we start to see trillions flood on chain and be traded 24/7, 365. Quincy is 100% correct here. He understands it. He gets it. And I want you all to understand this as well, because it is so crucial to realize, because if you don't realize this now, you are going to try to exit this space as fast as possible before the real value even hits. Today, the value of these networks are completely fake. They're nonsense. The real value, when that actually hits, when that becomes a reality, you will see just how efficient, how disruptive, and how revolutionary this tech actually is because of the real value that is tied to it. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely will like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.